Knock knock.
Oh, Kanon-kun. And you're here too, Genji-sama? What has happened with tonight's shift?
Crow-sama has given an order. He made some sizable changes to the shift schedule.
Indeed. Goto-san now has the night shift at the mansion. Shannon and Kanon have the night shift in the guest house. Kumasawa-san and I have been ordered to sleep in the guest house. Just now, a phone call came, saying that once you arrived, you were also to remain here for the rest of the night.
Huh? That certainly is a sizable change. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion have been completely reversed, haven't they?
Originally, Shannon and Kanon had been assigned the night shift in the mansion, while the night shift in the guest house, where all the relatives were staying, had been assigned to Gota, who had an abundance of experience in entertaining. Kumasawa should have been sleeping at the guest house, while Genji should have been sleeping in the mansion. However, it seemed that Kraus suddenly ordered that the schedule be modified. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion had all been reversed, and Genji was spending the night in the guest house.
It's probably because of Beatrice-sama's letter.
Why, probably.
After such a mysterious letter appeared, it was only natural that Kraus-sama would suspect one of us. We served directly under the masters, so Kraus-sama tried as best as he could to keep us far away from the family conference.
Genji, Shannon, and Kanon were all permitted to wear the Ushiromiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, as the servants who served directly under Kinzo. Of course, since they were working for the Ushiromiya family, they had to obey anyone's orders, but their only boss was Kinzo. Since only Kinzo held the right to employ them, even Kraus could not have them dismissed of his own accord. Because of this, Kraus and the others often viewed these servants as Kinzo's underlings and shunned them. And in fact, Kinzo seldom let anyone other than them enter his study. The sudden shift change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust that This sudden shift change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust that had caused. There we go. Okay, I finally read that right. Jesus. Considering that the time Kinzo had left to live, this would definitely be the last family conference before the problem of the inheritance came up. On top of that, the mysterious letter that claimed to be from Beatrice had dropped in out of the blue. Kraus definitely wanted to keep Kinzo's loyal subjects away from the table of such a delicate and important discussion.
If you would excuse me, I will go rest. If anything happens, call me immediately. Our guest tonight is a special case, after all.
Yes, certainly, Genji-sama.
Genji nodded back, went behind a screen, took off his jacket, and slowly began to relax after a day's worth of tension.
The ones who just returned now, were they the children?
Yes. The other relatives are having a conference in the mansion. It looked like it would drag on for quite some time.
Then we've got it easy. It's already this late, and there's this weather. The rest of the relatives will probably spend the night in their rooms in the mansion.
Yes, probably. I'm only saying this because Genji-sama isn't around, but I'm a little happy I was sent to the guest house, I guess.
Oh? Why is that? Because you can stay away from Madam and Eva-sama, those bullies? Or do you have another reason?
It's not as though I have another reason.
I see. Let's do our best together with our night shift. I'm counting on you, Nason.
Just now I was asked to go to the children's room and play with them.
Shannon hung her head apologetically, gazing at Kanon uncertainly. Kanon didn't try to meet her eyes, spoke curtly as he sighed. Looked like he didn't plan on indulging his sister.
You can't. You were assigned to the night shift. Besides which, it isn't necessary for furniture like us to respond to an invitation to play. You understand, right?
Yes, I do understand.
Shannon's shoulders drooped slightly. She had already expected that Kanon, a stickler for rules, would say something like that, but she still seemed a little discouraged. As Kanon flipped through a logbook, he spoke without facing Shannon.
That means the children will be waiting for you. You'll have to apologize and tell them that you have the night shift and won't be able to stay with them. Go and come back.
Yes. I'll go apologize and come back.
Shannon hurriedly stood from her seat before her brother's mood could change and flew out of the servant room after giving a quick bow. As he watched her go, Kanon took a single deep breath. Genji's voice came from beyond the screen.
Kanon, I will be here so you can go too.
Genji-sama, Shannon was the only one called. It's not as though I was invited.
That was only because you were not there at the time. If you had been, you would have been invited as well. It is good to play as a child from time to time.
No, such a thing is not necessary for me. Human children may have a need for play, but we are furniture.
Is that so?
Nason is also furniture, even if she pretends to be a person. It will only hurt her later. I understand that, so I try not to get too close to people, that's all.
Genji did not say anything after that. After a while, he stood up and used a pot of hot water to make a powdered coat of him, serving some to Kanan as well.
Is that for real? I had no clue. Dumbass, you're too loud. You'll wake Murray up.
Ryler was so surprised that he yelled obnoxiously and scattered his cards everywhere. His voice caused Maria to turn over once, but she soon fell back into a deep sleep. Jessica gave him a jab and he lowered his voice.
Still, seriously, now that you mention it, they really did have that kind of atmosphere, didn't they?
Huh, now I see. So George couldn't be seen anywhere in the room. A short while ago, when Shannon came into the room, George suddenly said that he'd forgotten something in the mansion and needed to go back and get it. Shannon said she would guide him, just like she had on the way to the guest house, and the two of them departed together. Oh, they fucking. Well, there's actually been signs of it for a while now. You know, questions about hobbies and favorite things. I always thought it was a bit much for our passing interest, and look what's happened now. Come to think of it, get the feeling George Anaki's always been overly nice to Shannon-chan. Now I get it. Yeah. She's getting clapped right now. My man George. Don't tell me they fucking outside in the rain. Okay, no.
According to the weather report, looks like it'll be at its worst tonight. Well, seems it'll last all day tomorrow. That should get a little better.
Really? Then maybe the boat won't arrive until the day after tomorrow. I hope that doesn't interfere with your work on Monday.
I already knew the typhoon would be coming beforehand. Just in case, I made sure I didn't have any plans for Monday, so it's okay. I may not look it, but I really am the type who can plan ahead in his schedule.
George puffed out his chest, acting proud. Compared to the calm appearance George always had as the oldest cousin, he now looked amusingly like a little kid. Shannon chuckled at this abrupt contrast.
It's no surprise you're so well prepared, as someone who'll bring prosperity to his company someday.
Well, making a company prosper really is a tough job. Money is the only thing that's important. I learned that well when studying under my father. Making a company prosper is like owning a castle and leading your subordinates. My dad really loves reading about great leaders during the warring periods of Japan, a hobby that's probably influenced by the fact that he shares Toyotomi Hideyoshi's name. Much of his philosophy on managing business comes from talking about them. Did you know? Takeda Shingen, who was feared as the leader of the strongest cavalry corps in the warring periods, started out with his troops in complete disarray. They have the kind of strong leadership necessary to utilize them well.
Is that true? That's a little unexpected.
In order to unite his troops, Shingen showed his excellent leadership in many ways. For example, when a soldier succeeded well in battle, he would immediately honor them with a medal. Normally that kind of thing was put off until after the war, and they were all awarded at once. He continued this diligently while on the field of battle, and immediately showing his appreciation for his troops' military exploits motivated them in an extremely significant fashion. Also, whenever one of his troops was brought down by an illness, he would be the first to rush up to them and care for them, and so on. Takeda Shingen wasn't just the man who led the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period. He was the person who cared the most for his troops throughout that era.
And because he was that kind of person,
All of his troops went along with him.
The truth was, Shannon had already heard the story several years ago. But whenever a discussion of his father led to this sort of topic, George would always glow and look like he was having a great time. So Shannon just smiled without interrupting, urging him to continue.
And of course, in a capitalist world, money determines both your strength and the height of your fortifications. But you can't build up a castle or succeed in war by yourself. Such things can only be accomplished with the support of many subordinates by borrowing their strength. And after understanding this, when I look at my father's back, I realize how immature I am. You can clearly see how much competition he had to overcome before building up all he has now.
George-san, you truly look up to your father. I'm jealous.
Sorry, that's not how I meant it.
I'm sorry, that's not how I meant it either.
The two of them awkwardly looked at their feet. Then they started fucking. Shannon had no parents. She had been brought up in an orphanage owned by Kinzo, called the Fukyuin House. Under the guidance of Kinzo, the honorary director, The orphanage offered members who excelled a chance for on-the-job serving experience. If their efforts met with Kinzo's approval, they'd be able to leave the orphanage and work as servants for the Ushiramiya family. This was considered to be the highest honor for those who lived in the orphanage. Servants from the Fukuin house all took the names with the character On in them while they served. So Shannon wasn't her real name. The same went for Kanon. All of the members of the Fukuin house were orphans. At least they were all people who had been separated from their parents under special circumstances. Because of this, the orphans had been taught to think of each other as their only family. That's why it seemed so natural to both of them when Kanon called Shannon his sister. While both Shannon and Kanon were working in the mansion today, there were several other servants passing the On character in their names, such as Manon and Lennon, who often worked in a rotation schedule. However, there were not as many servants who stayed with the Ushiramiya family for long. It was standard for them to quit after 3 years. So you could probably say that Shannon, who had been working for 10 years, was a notable exception to the rule. Working as a servant for the Ushiramiya family was a heavy burden to bear, but the pay wasn't bad at all. Working for a full 3 years would earn more than what was needed to enter mainstream society. That was why, even though the orphans realized what a harsh task working for the Ushiramiya family was, they still hoped to be accepted. Maybe the fact that Shannon managed to continue working for 10 years wasn't because she had more willpower than the other servants. Maybe she got stuck working for 10 years because she didn't have the courage to say she wanted to quit. Kinzo couldn't even trust his own blood relatives, and these excellent servants sent from the Fukuin house were the only ones he could rely on. Because of that, Kinzo would sometimes allow them to wear the family crest, as servants under his direct control, and have them work close to him.
You've been working here for almost 10 years now, right? You must have saved up a lot of money by now.
I wonder. It's not like there's anything in particular I'd like to buy. After all, a few million yen isn't enough to live off for the rest of your life.
So the reason you've been working all this time wasn't to hit some target sum?
Yes, that's right. I have nowhere to go outside this mansion, and I have been getting along well with Milady and the other young servants. Madam does scold me sometimes, but caring for the roses and cleaning the mansion is fun.
But they can't be your entire life, Shannon-chan.
No, Sayo-chan.
Shannon cast her eyes downwards when she heard her real name. She understood what George was trying to say and fell silent.
There's something I've learned as I continue to study, even after becoming an adult and a full-fledged member of society. A human's life is not as monotonous or short as we thought when we were kids.
All school-age kids have certain fears they can't shake. They wonder whether they'll live the rest of their lives like sleepy classes after a monotonous and boring school day, and spending their time in a carefree laziness without anything interesting happening until it's all over. However, life's only like that for underage students. Compared to a human's life, the time they spend as students is nothing more than the blink of an eye, a period where they break through the shells of their immaturity. The inside of the shell might be a hot, suffocating, and boring world, but the world beyond that shell is vast and filled with limitless possibilities.
So far, your life has been trapped inside the shell called Shannon. I think you're under the mistaken impression that your life will continue like this forever.
Shannon couldn't deny those words. She'd been unable to harbor any clear doubts about her lifestyle, and since she never had any hope or goals for changing herself, she lazily continued living the way she always had. And if asked whether this life was satisfying, she wouldn't have been able to nod. She may have been intentionally averting her eyes from the truth. Without George's admonishments, she would have continued pretending not to notice as her real life slipped away bit by bit, neglected.
George-sama, is it wrong for me to continue living this way?
Yeah, it is. Oh, and by the way, did you break one of your rules just now?
George immediately gave a strict answer, then broke out in a mischievous smile. Shannon already knew what she was being chided for. She hung her head again, apparently in embarrassment.
Didn't you promise not to use Sama when the two of us are alone?
I couldn't obey that as a promise. But if it was an order, I would have to obey it. Because I'm furniture.
Then it's an order.
Yes, certainly, George-san.
As Shannon hung her head, her face red, she said George's name again, this time following it with San.
Yes, that's fine, Sayo-chan.
George smiled at Shannon. No, Sayo, to praise her a small act of bravery. This short exchange alone made it clear how far back the relationship must have stretched. For a long while, the two talked as if the weather raging about them didn't even enter their thoughts. They talked about the many memories they'd built during their relationship that no one else knew about. Every once in a while, a flash of lightning would attempt to interrupt them. This could sully neither the roses or the time they spent blushing at each other. And then they fucked.
That's right. We totally fucked. I have something I wanted to show you. It's my penis.
What could it be? Is it your penis?
George, who'd been speaking eloquently, suddenly started to stutter. Watching him, Shannon seemed to guess something. George timidly searched through his pocket. Something got caught in the depths of his pocket. It was his penis. And just like the stuttering George, it took a little while to get it out. Wink, wink. He's proposing, isn't he? It was a very small box. Yep. A small box covered in a deep blue velvet. That peculiar shape was enough to tell anyone what was resting inside. Shannon had prepared her heart somewhat, certain beforehand that this is what he'd been planning. Excuse me. But even so, when she actually saw it, she couldn't avoid blushing once more. George opened up the small box, took something out, and held it out for Shannon to take.
I want you to take this.
I couldn't accept something so valuable.
You can't take it?
No, I'm unworthy of such a thing.
Sayo, this isn't a request. It's an order. Take this ring. Okay?
If it's an order, I cannot disobey.
Yeah, that's right. Well done.
Shannon, not wanting to show her bright red face, timidly accepted the ring from George's hand, while still staring at the ground. That ring wasn't a simple accessory. It was a noble object, meant since ancient times to be offered to a special woman under special circumstances. Therefore, while George could order her to take it, he could not order anything beyond that. Anything beyond that would depend not on an order, but on Shannon's, no, Sayo's own free will.
So from here on, I'm not ordering you anymore. Sayo, I want you to give me your answer by tomorrow, without using words. Do you understand?
How should I...
A blowjob, Sayo. I won't order you any further, so this isn't an order. But a ring is something you put on your finger, after all. If you like it, you can just put it on any finger you choose.
Shannon had only pretended not to know. She already understood what he wanted her to do. But she was standing at a huge crossroads of her life.
Look how late it's gotten. Let's call it a day.
George turned away from Shannon, acting just a bit bluntly.
I could probably order you to wear it on your left hand. You might be timid and dependent enough to actually obey that kind of order. But I want at least this last step to be done by your own will, Sayo. Understand?
Yes.
So, that's my order. I want you to think about it well tonight and show me your answer tomorrow.
Shannon nodded back. Today was the culmination of their many days spent together. This moment certainly hadn't come as a surprise to Shannon.
We should be getting back to the guest house soon. If we take any longer, we'll make everyone worry about us.
I'm sorry. I just remembered something I had to do in the mansion, so, I have to go back to the mansion.
At a time like this?
Is that true? George stared into Shannon's face as he laughed mischievously. He definitely saw through Shannon's lie. However, when he saw how she felt, he could sort of understand that she might be so embarrassed that she'd want to be alone. So because George realized the meaning behind Shannon's lie, he accepted it. Okay. Okay. 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock. 1 hour later. Shannon entered the entrance hall to the mansion with a tottering gait. A mixture of exultation and uncertainty gave her a feeling that she couldn't easily describe. It swelled up in her chest. It felt like she was about to burst. After stopping for a second in front of the servant room to take a deep breath and calm her heart, she opened the door. Inside, Goda, who'd been ordered to take the midnight shift at the mansion tonight, was absorbed in a worn-out crossword puzzle magazine. He looked up for an instant to see if one of the family had come. When he realized it was a fellow servant, he returned to his puzzle as if nothing had happened.
Genji-sama told me to come and help you.
Ah, is that so? That's a relief. I was just about to go check that the mansion was fully locked up, but I felt uneasy about leaving this room unmanned. After all, Kraus-sama and the others' meeting look as though it will continue for quite some time. They might request some tea at any moment.
That's true. Then what shall we do? Should I watch over?
In that case, forgive me, Shadow-san. I'll ask that you patrol the mansion. I will stay here, awaiting the family's orders.
Yes.
Shannon was slightly disgusted. Even though she'd come here to help out as a favor, she was casually being forced to do the job of the person actually on duty. Furthermore, after one-sidedly forcing that task on her, Goda returned to his magazine once again and became immersed in his crossword puzzle. Yeah, no, can't trust Goda worth a shit. Shannon bowed her head as a token sign of respect for her elder, then left the room to patrol the mansion. Thanks to her being a bit ticked off, she managed to suppress that floaty feeling she'd been having until just now. Leave it to Goda to totally fuck up your mood. Man, I'm so anxious and nervous after my meeting with George. Then you encounter Goda, and it's just like, you know what? Yeah, you know, I'm fine. And anyway, she couldn't let Genji count on her looking like this. She wanted a little time to herself till her heart calmed down, so maybe going on patrol wouldn't be so bad. Maybe. She began to hear the tumultuous voices of the family discussion coming from the dining hall. Someone was speaking at great length, only to be interrupted by someone else. This second person also began to speak in a very long, drawn-out fashion, until yet another person interrupted. They kept on repeating. It was as though their displeasure was seeping out through their voices. She had been told to go to the guest house, so it would be bad if Kraus discovered her. Thinking this, Shannon dashed past the dining hall. Then she went along a prearranged route through the dark mansion, checking that all the locks were secure. And then she's gonna find one that isn't. She walked down the hall, checking each window. There were no humans on Orokinjima other than those connected to the family, so locking up didn't really serve much of a purpose. No one had been in the habit of locking up at the Ushiromiya head family, at least not until Natsuya had scolded them for being careless. The metal fixtures on the windows were ice cold, and as she checked them one by one, the glow in her heart seemed to cool down. Oh? At that time, she thought she saw something twinkling across the hall. Twinkling? How could anything be twinkling through the darkness of the hall? She figured she must have been imagining it, but she still held her breath. Grasping a curtain, she fearfully gazed down the hall. However, other than the occasional crack of thunder brightening the hallway, she was unable to glimpse any flicker again. It must have been her imagination, after all. Maybe her heart was so agitated that she'd seen something that didn't even exist. Shannon went back to checking the windows. However, a certain unnerving memory was resurrected in the back of her mind. It was that ghost story, which had been passed down amongst the servants who served the Ushiromiya head family. The mansion had two different masters, one of the day and one of the night. Dayman, nightman. Beatrice, the master of the night, would sometimes fly around the mansion in the form of sparkling butterflies. That was the story. Come to think of it, didn't Kanon-kun say he'd once seen it with his own eyes? Though he got sulky when I said he must have imagined it and refused to believe him. Could it possibly be true? The roar of the thunder gave no answer. Oh, I'm here for this. Oh, I'm here for this. Oh, let's go. I'm mad excited. I see, that's the thing. I already know what Beatrice actually looks like, but I'm just excited for the reveal. I need to see the reveal.